Okay, great. So now we're just talking about your packages, your offering.
Fee structures, more or less, is what we talk about in medicine. Because I do house calls, it's a lot more work and time. So from the time I get the call, leave the house, drive to where I'm going, and then see the patient, review the environment, assess everything. And the nice thing in my house call, the food's here, the water's here, I can look at everything. That alone takes a good hour. The average veterinarian in an office sees 4 people or 3 people, depending on how much time they spend per visit, in 1 hour. They see the animal, assess it, give it to the technician to do something with it if they need to, or send it out the door. They'll give vaccines. That's a big issue because adult animals, once vaccinated, generally don't need a vaccine every year. And that's true for humans as well. How many vaccines did you have this year? Probably haven't had any for years, except if you travel outside the country. So the thing to look at is how important it is to give vaccines. So the rabies vaccine used to be every year. Now it's every 3 years. And probably doesn't need to be that often. The immunity does not, the body, the brain and the immune system have great memory of vaccinations. So even though you haven't had one for a few years, if you get in contact with it, there'll be a memory of it, and the immune system will activate it. So for that reason, they don't need to be seen every year necessarily for vaccines in my book, but they do need a physical exam. And depending on the age of the animal, 3 to 4 year old cat in its prime, teenagehood, may not need to be seen every year, but what you want to really watch is there anything off? If it's off, if their intestinal tract's off, they have diarrhea, they're not having stools, if you look at their mouth, and that's important, or if they get bad breath in the mouth, that would be a reason to take them in, to get seen. And some animals do a lot better on house calls, cats being the number 1 for that. They don't like change, like we've talked about. Dogs tolerate those trips to the grocery store or anywhere pretty easily. But to see, the important thing to me, as much as reducing the stress on the animal, is to see the animal's environment. To meet the people that are in the house, see what that looks like, and the outdoor environment around the house. If they're in an apartment or in a slum or in a house like this, whatever it is, it's a real help. And we can look at where are the food dishes, what's the water dish look like, what's the water source, what's the litter box look like, where is that? All those kind of behavioral things or substantive things for the cat that can be assessed.
And for the for an average client that would call you or find you online, what would if you could do a tight one, like in 10 seconds, the service you offer, and then how much that would cost. So I just have a really short one.
Okay. Doing a house call costs a little money. So it's about $120 for a house call, depending on where it is. And then if it's too far, if it's out of my region and I have to drive 30 or 40 minutes, there's some mileage and travel time added to that. And then there's the exam of the cat that can cost $60, $75. And then whatever we have to do, whether it be given ketone like we did here, other injections, or just assessing him and treating him for his allergies. Allergy elimination work, depending on how many things there are, can cost probably $75 to $120. The house call, I think we talked about this, maybe $120, could be more with travel time. So the average house call, minimal, by the time I get there, assess everything, do a few basic things, probably costs $250 to $300. If it's distance and there's a lot to do, I've seen house calls cost $400, $500, $600. And if we draw blood, cost of getting blood drawn and assessed, that can be $250 or $300 all by itself. So, you can see some pretty big numbers, but when you go into a veterinary office today in West LA, you'll see some big numbers in there too. Really, the only difference in the cost of going in and me coming to the house is that difference in travel time and time spent for me to get there and do the house call. If it was convenient for you, then you're going to pay a little more money for it. If you have to schlep the animal in there, you'll pay a little less. So that's how that works. I think it makes sense. It took me a while to figure that out, but I did that pretty early.
All right, good.